just in sort of colloquially, is Putin doing this because he needs to sort of show strength on the international stage before going into negotiations? It certainly seemed to undermine a spirit of goodwill, if you can even call it that, that one would want to cultivate before sitting down with the Americans to negotiate the cessation of chemical weapons use and ceding the supply to the international community.
Well, I agree, and Alex, I think it's between you and me and the distinguished folks around the table with you there, we could make a lot of money if we could divine exactly the mindset of Vladimir Putin, and there are tons of analysts who are doing so with a lot of tools in their hands. But at the end of the day, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist or intel analyst to see that Vladimir Putin has quite a sense of self, and I think is reflecting a certain mood in his country, a country that used to be a superpower in a different context, and unfortunately views the world perhaps as a zero-sum game. And at the end of the day, we were talking about old media and new media, perhaps is still working in an antiquated frame of mind when it comes to the way that countries can get along. Clearly the Russians have interest in this region, and let's not forget that. When it comes to WMD and particular chemical weapons, they have no interest in these getting out of control either, and they have concerns about terrorism themselves. One of the things I would note is that in the same newspaper in 1999, Vladimir Putin, as Prime Minister, penned an op-ed titled "Why We Must Act." A slightly interesting counterpoint to the tone he's striking now.
Indeed.
But there are interests they have, and at the end of the day, this is one of the basic themes and tones that President Obama has set, is that we need to find where those common interests lie and move ahead. And hopefully, without the spotlight of a New York Times op-ed page, the negotiators in Geneva can actually get down to business to talk about those common interests.
David Corn, Ben Cheng just referred to you wonderful people as distinguished panelists, and so I go to you with the question.
We'll try not to
try and live up to that standard. The New York Times writing today about the power dynamic between Obama and Putin, and they say that the New York Times suddenly the paper of note for former KGB agents turned abusive presidents of former Soviet. Anyway, suddenly Mr. Putin has eclipsed Mr. Obama as the world leader driving the agenda in the Syria crisis. Although circumstances could shift yet again, Mr. Putin appears to achieve several objectives, largely at Washington's expense. He has handed a diplomatic lifeline to his longtime ally Syria, stopped Mr. Obama from going around the UN Security Council, and boxed Mr. Obama into treating Moscow as an essential partner for much of the next year. I mean, I really think you go ahead.
I think that's really overstated. Successful diplomacy is when each side thinks they've gotten the better of the other side.
Yeah.
Okay? So what we have here is, ratchet back a second. There was an attack of chemical weapons on August 21st. The president then started taking initiatives, and it ended up with the threat of military action. And up until then, Assad was not admitting anything. Putin didn't seem to have any interest in restraining his proxy, or the person he sponsors in Syria. And then, you know, in response to what Obama did, it was clearly in response. You can't say it wasn't, and whether what Obama did was right or not. Putin comes in, and what do we get out of this, at least for the time being? Assad is boxed in on the use of chemical weapons. As long as they're negotiating, as long as Russia's on the hook to do something about this, I mean, now we have Putin saying we must do something about Assad's chemical weapons. And so in that sort of circumstance, it's very unlikely Assad is going to resort to these chemical weapons again. So Obama, in a way, and I don't mean to sound like talking points in the White House, I don't think they've been this eloquent up to now in describing what they've done. He's achieved one strategic objective. Now, if Putin preens around, it's no surprise he's the bad boy in the superpowers club. That's all to the side. If you talk about what was the goal initially from this administration, they've kind of got a very big step there. Even